Hey there, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be looking at a hot topic that's been causing quite a stir over on TikTok, the whole tip debate, or rather should I say debacle. To be quite honest, I've had this topic on my mind and I've been meaning to talk about it and just give my thoughts on it for a very long time. So I was actually glad that this whole debate came back up because I really wanted to give my opinion and what I think, because I've had some thoughts on it for a while now. But before we go into my thoughts, let's just go into what TikTok has to say.
207 DoorDash 92.97. Right now it's 5:30. See if I can't find a clock. Let me see. It's 5:30. Is there a clock over there? No. Well, it says 2:15. What time is it right now? 5:30? 5:13? 5:19. Thank you. That's we're picking up 5:30 now.
When you tip your driver, you get your food delivered quicker. Tip your driver. Don't be a clown.
In what world does it make sense that we're tipping people to make Subway sandwiches? I told you how to make it. I should be getting tipped. You need to leave.
So apparently the origins of tipping in the food industry can be traced back to the 19th century in Europe and the United States. It was a way to show appreciation for good service and it was completely optional. However, over the time, tipping has become an integral part in our culture. According to Wikipedia, the practice of tipping traces its roots back to Tudor England during medieval times, where tipping was a master-servant custom where servants received extra money for exceptional service. As the centuries passed, the custom of tipping evolved. By the 17th century, it was customary for overnight guests to private homes to provide money known as vails to the host servants. Soon customers began tipping in London coffee houses and other commercial establishments. And as such, the practice grew and grew, became bigger, and it made its way to America in the 1850s and 1860s. Introduced by Americans who sought to imitate the aristocratic European customs. Now, the history of tipping is actually quite fascinating. As mentioned, it originated as a voluntary act of appreciation for exceptional services. However, over time, it evolved into a complicated system where livelihoods of service workers became dependent on the tips. This transformation happened in part due to employers realizing that they could save on labor costs by shifting the responsibility of paying fair wages onto customers. And as such, the practice became prevalent in many countries and perpetuated the notion that tips or gratitude is an essential part of a worker's income. Over time, many Americans view tipping as inconsistent with the value of an egalitarian democratic society, thus giving birth to the anti-tipping movement, with the origins of tipping being rooted in noblesse oblige, promoting tipping as a means to establish social status over inferiors. The concept kinda rubbed them off the wrong way. As a result, some American law states passed laws that made tipping illegal, although enforcement of these laws proved quite challenging. Interestingly, some historians argue that the concept of not paying workers and relying solely on tips carried over from the era of slavery, whereby newly fed slaves were among the original workers who were not paid anything by the employers, thus leading to them relying on tips for their livelihood. Now, over in Europe, the anti-tipping movement gained momentum over the support of the labor movement, eventually leading to the abolition of customary tipping in most European countries. Proprietors regarded it as the equivalent to bribing an employee to do something that was otherwise forbidden, such as, for example, tipping a waiter to get extra large portions of food. Thus, contrary to popular belief, the primary purpose of tipping was not to compensate for low wages, as the occupation of a waiter or server was relatively well paid when tipping became institutionalized.
People that don't tip at restaurants are fucking assholes. I don't care what spiel you give me about, the restaurants should pay them more. Bro, they're not gonna pay them more just because you don't tip someone. You're just fucking the waitress or waiter over.
Okay.
Therefore, considering the historical background, we must acknowledge that tipping has evolved significantly over time. It has shifted from a gesture of appreciation for outstanding service while simultaneously showing off one's aristocratic status to a complex system that affects workers' livelihoods. The dichotomy between the original intent of tipping and its modern-day implications highlights the need for re-evaluating of the entire practice.
Tipping culture in the UK is getting out of hand. So last night I went out for dinner and drinks, and both places automatically added 12.5% service charge. I went to a bar where they literally took our order, gave us our drinks, that was it. Went to a restaurant where they didn't even come and take our order. It was the kind of place where you literally wrote your order down and they just came and collected this piece of paper, then gave you the food. At the bar, nobody came back to check in on us.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
In the present day, we face a dilemma where tips have become crucial for service providers to make ends meet due to employers shirking their responsibility to pay fair wages. The situation has led to the debate and controversy surrounding how much to tip, which is where the whole TikTok dilemma is about right now. The whole debacle seems to miss the point entirely. Tipping should be a gesture of gratitude for exceptional services, not a measure of someone's worth or test of how much they can afford to spend. Unfortunately, the way I see it, this debate is often rooted in privilege, as it falls to consider that not everyone can afford to tip exorbitant amounts of money. Speaking from my own experience, as someone who comes from a third world country, raised in a middle-class family, I know what it's like to struggle financially and not be able to afford generous tips. Like, it's not that I don't want to tip people what they're worth. I really would like to, and in a perfect world, I'd be able to afford to do so. It's just that I cannot. Therefore, I do not. But that doesn't make me a bad person. It doesn't make me an evil person. It just means that I'm in a financial position that is quite different from certain other people. And because of this, I think a lot of the people who are making noise in this whole debate don't realize that they're actually coming from a place of privilege, don't realize that tipping is actually not mandatory. It's literally meant to be a kind gesture. I literally do not have to pay someone. Like, the fact that I paid for that food, that should cover everything. That should cover everything from the food that it is that I'm eating, how it was made, the electricity that was used to make it, the people taking it from the kitchen, bringing it to my table, the whole hoopla. Technically, if we're being real, I already paid for that in paying for my meal. Everything, all of that technically has been calculated for in them giving me that price at the end of my meal. Do you get what I mean? So I do not have to give anything extra. I do not have to pay anyone anything extra. It's literally a kind gesture. That's just what it is. It's just me showing gratitude, right? Therefore, the responsibility falls on the employers, not the customers. And I think that's one aspect of the conversation that is not really being talked about, or even if it is, I didn't really see it. Like, not a lot of people are talking about it from that perspective, right? The fact that it is not my job as a customer to provide you with extra income so that you as the service provider can have a good living or be able to afford a living. That's your employer's job, right? That's your employer's job.
If you don't have money to tip your server and you go out to eat and don't tip your server, I have zero respect for you. I have a server making $5 something an hour and I live off of your tip. I don't care how many tables I have, how busy I look. I don't care. 9 times out of 10, I'm not making the money that you think I'm making. And it's crazy because there's so many servers out there and there's no awareness for this, it feels like. Like, the server industry does not get enough credit for how hard this shit is. It is not easy. It's backbreaking work. I work in a bar and grill and I love my job. Don't get me wrong, and I'm good at what I do. But it is so degrading to get stiffed. To work so hard, to smile at a table with a big smile on my face despite how stressed I am, and give you good service and then get no tip. Like, I didn't just work my ass off for you. There are good days and there are bad days, and today is a bad day, and I think that the service industry needs better, hey, because lately society's just not getting it.
Okay, let's move on.
Because at the end of the day, I wasn't there when you got in the agreement with your boss. I don't know the terms of your contract. I wasn't there. I wasn't telling you, babe, this deal is for you. The deal is the best thing that can ever happen to you. You better sign it. And if you don't, you're gonna lose it. Like, I wasn't there. I wasn't influencing anyone to do anything. Therefore, why is it that now it's become my responsibility to make sure that someone gets their worth? Like, I don't know if that makes sense, because the way I look at it is that if you're gonna come at me talking about, oh, it's just about the service provider, they did the good job, it's hard being a service provider, babe, I can argue that for a lot of industries. If we're gonna say that, I need for us to keep the same energy for all the industries. Me personally, I am in the law industry, right? I'm currently figuring my shit out to see if that's where I want to stay, but like, that's a whole topic for another day. I don't go around giving my clients advice, and after that advice, I'm like, oh, babe, how did you like my service? Rate my service. Give me like a little extra. No, that's not what I do. I don't make them feel guilty by guilt tripping them into being like, oh, well, if you don't give me this tip, you might not win that case. No. So why is it that the people in service industries are the only people that get away with gaslighting and blackmailing customers into giving them tips? I really don't understand this, and I know it might sound like I'm coming off a bit too strong, but that's because I've had this thoughts for like a long time now. Like I said, I come from a third world country where I come from like a middle class family, right? I have been not rich all my life, and it's funny thinking about like when I would go out, people, especially if I wasn't with like my parents, where like I had to pay, people would assume that like I'm fucking moneyed and therefore I'm supposed to give like exorbitant amount of money. Like, babe, yes, I look like $1 million, but that don't mean my account's the same. Because one thing about my parents, they taught me that, babes, do not look like your problems. Never in life look like your problems, look like your situation, ever, right? So my account may be on a -5, but best believe I'm gonna look like $1 million. Bet I'm gonna look like $1 million, right? So I guess when I go out, people would, especially service providers, would look at me and judge me based off of how I looked and expected me to pay a certain amount of money. And I'm like, babe, me and you, we're on the same plane. We are on the same level. Me and you, we're on the same level. You get what I mean? Like, we are one. We are one. Don't look at me and think like I'm in a higher caliber, babe, but we are one. We are one, so don't get it twisted. But I'd always feel some type of way because they make you feel like that, right? If you don't give the tip, if you don't give the tip that even if you do give the tip, right? If you don't give the tip that they feel that they're entitled to, they're gonna make you feel a certain way. And it's like, but like, I gave you all I could. Like, literally. A lot of people like to count people's pockets, and that's really insane. That's insane to me because you don't know what everyone is going through in life. You don't know the struggles that they're going through. You're just judging. You're counting their pockets for what, babe? For what? For what? People count people's pockets and they expect them to give out a certain amount of money, when in actuality, like, I don't have to. I really don't. It's not a must. It's really not a must, because me paying for that service should be enough. You don't hear fucking, like I said, lawyers, we don't do that. We don't say, yeah, I give you this legal advice, now give me an extra money, and if you don't, I'm gonna lose your case. You don't hear dentists saying, oh my gosh, give me extra money, otherwise you're gonna lose your tooth. You don't hear optometrists say, yeah, give me extra money or you're gonna lose an eye. No, but for some reason the people in the food industry are the only people who can get away with that shit. That kind of rubs me off the wrong way. I'm sorry for the tangent, but like that really rubbed me off the wrong way. Because like, the way I see it, we should focus our energy on fighting corporations that exploit these hardworking service providers rather than arguing about how much we should tip. Literally, that's losing the point. That's losing the plot. Corporations often prioritize their profits over the well-being of their employees, leaving them dependent on tips to make ends meet. This is where our efforts should be channeled. By advocating for fair wages, better working conditions, and employee rights, we can truly make a difference. So rather, let's shift our focus and unite to demand better treatment for service workers. Let's call out the corporations and businesses that don't pay their staff enough, and let's support those that actually do right by their employees. And as we move forward, it is crucial to keep in mind the historical context and recognize that tipping alone cannot fit the systemic issues faced by the service workers. Instead, let's direct our energies towards demanding fair wages, better working conditions, and employee rights from corporations and businesses, instead of fighting one another and doing all those rah 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 on TikTok, because that's what they want. They want us to fight each other. They want us to bicker and go back and forth and call each other the bad guy, because to prove that I'm the good guy, I have to make sure that you're the bad guy, right? And for you to prove that you're the good guy, you're gonna try to make sure that I'm the bad guy, when in actuality neither of us are the bad guy. You know who's the bad guy? The motherfucker who created this whole structure, the person who created this whole unfair and unequal structure.
What do you get per hour on tips?
Even if people are tipping the 20% that is standard for great service, most servers are tipping out 3 to 5% of that to bussers, hosts, and bartenders.
What if I leave you nothing?
Then we have to pay that tip out whether you give us money or not. So like say your bill is $100 and you don't tip me at all, I'm paying $5 to wait on.
The way I see it, tipping should return to its essence, a gesture of appreciation and gratitude for exceptional service, but it should not be relied upon as a substitute for fair wages and employee rights. In conclusion, let's remember that tipping is a way to express gratitude, not a burden or a measure of financial status. Instead of arguing about how much we should tip, let's fight for the rights of service workers and work towards a fairer, more just system that doesn't rely on tips to sustain livelihoods. In actuality, tips should be just what they are, tips, a little bit of extras, you know what I mean? Like extra little something on top of the livelihood you're able to make. It shouldn't be that now you're relying on the tip to have a better livelihood. Which honestly reminds me of the whole writer's strike that's going on right now, and how a lot of people want to fight the writers and the people who are striking, being like, oh, they're being greedy, they're being unfair, they want more money. That's such a dumb thing to say. That's such a dumb take to have, because they don't make the money. You know who's making that money? You know who's making those $1 million, $1 billion deals? The big corporations. They are the ones making the money. Because you see their works on TV, that means they're making more money than you. Therefore, them picketing and doing all that rah 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 is them just being unreasonable. And babe, are you hearing yourself? Are you hearing yourself? I'm not trying to go into detail about it in this video. If you're interested in watching that video, I can make it. But the point that I'm trying to make is that people are fighting the wrong people. I see that more and more people are fighting the wrong battles. Like, we should be fighting the corporations. We should be fighting the people who are in charge. The men who create these conditions for the workers to be exploited. They are the ones who create conditions that exploit these workers. They don't give their fair wages, their fair rights, better working conditions. They are the ones who are in control of these things. We are not. Therefore, us fighting each other, it doesn't help anything at the end of the day. It doesn't change anything for the better. Therefore, we need to channel our energies to the right channels. That's all I wanted to say. So, if you made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you for tuning in. And remember, kindness and understanding go a very long way in making the world a better place. That's just my thoughts. I don't know, do you think I was being too harsh, or do you think that I'm being too one-sided? Do you agree that people should tip more and that will solve everything? Do you think people should tip less and that will solve everything? Or do you agree with my take that we need to be fighting the right people? So anyway, if you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I really like having you here. Honestly, stay, don't go, stay, watch more, stay. Anyway, thank you for watching. See you in my next video. Bye.